Hey everybody, Evan Horowitz, co-founder and CEO of Movers+Shakers, social first creative agency. I'm here with Simon Morris. You want to say hello and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks for having me here. My name is Simon Morris. I'm Vice President of International Marketing at Adobe, which basically means I'm responsible for thinking about how we show up locally in a relevant way as a brand across EMEA, Asia Pacific, and Latin America.
No small task.
No.
What attracted you to Adobe in the first place?
I think the idea of, firstly, the idea of marketing software to marketers was pretty compelling. Yeah, exactly. And then over the last few years, I've also had a great opportunity to really dig into our creative software. And as we've seen, creativity, marketing, and AI converging, it's just been a great place to see Adobe really own that area.
Mm-hmm. Well, Adobe is amazing at building cultural relevance and recruiting fans. How do you think about what's the best way to authentically engage fans to drive that super fandom?
Yeah, if I think about it in the context of fans, we always believe it's much better not to gate crash a party, but rather think about the fans who are at that party and giving them the right tools to create great content and have more fun. Mm-hmm. So it's really deeply understanding your customer or your fans, and then making sure you're connecting to what they want to achieve, helping them tell their stories in creative ways. And so, it's just making sure we're authentically in that conversation.
What's the best way to know what your fans want? How do you listen to them to understand them more deeply?
I'd say it's, firstly, we do take a very much a customer in perspective. So if you don't deeply understand your customer problems, as my boss says, fall in love with your customer problems. We really try and make sure that we are solving their needs, and in the case of creative professionals, helping them, giving them the power and precision, the tools that have the power and precision to help them do their best work. Obviously now with some of our AI tools, we're able to remove some of the kind of tedious, repetitive tasks, so they actually really can focus their time on their craft, on that storytelling. And then for business professionals, people like myself, who need to communicate visually, it's really about leveraging AI to kind of ignite that spark. Sometimes it's the fear of the blank page that can get in the way of people communicating well visually. And so certainly for me, that's where AI comes in to help overcome that fear of that blank page.
Have you found that to unleash more creativity for yourself personally?
Absolutely. I mean, I have had so much fun, recently. Some of the activations we've had with Firefly, whether it be, creating my tiny twin or creating in the context of the World Cup, creating my own kind of Panini-style sticker, just playing around with that and using that first kind of image or video generation as a starting point for them to build upon and experiment and just have some fun.
I loved my football sticker. It made my muscles quite a bit bigger than in real life.
Absolutely.
So I was grateful to Firefly for its imagination.
Excellent.
Why football? Adobe is investing a lot of energy in football. How do you see that as relevant and connected to the business goals of Adobe?
So Adobe's always been focused on the passion points that are relevant to our customers. And so, whether that be fashion, music, art, design, we've always tapped into passion points. More, over the last few years, we've been focused on sport. Sure, there's absolutely incredible emotions in sport.
It's still a lot of emotion in sport. Yeah.
There's a lot of passion, a lot of emotion in sport. There's also some incredible opportunity for storytelling. Mm-hmm. Whether that be the players or the clubs or the leagues or the fans, the opportunity to help them tell their stories and to co-create is just incredible. And so we've done a lot of work, with clubs like Real Madrid, or ranging from Real Madrid with 600 million fans around the world to a Camden Town Women's Football Club, which is around the corner from our office in London.
Nice.
To help them connect with their fans, to create great content, and deliver personalised experiences. And then, with leagues, we're working with the likes of the Premier League, again, for them, helping them deeply understand their fans so they can deliver personalised fan experiences at scale. But at the same time, we provide them with the creative tools so their fans can kind of co-create I guess a really good example of that was the Fantasy Premier League, which has over close to 12 million people play Fantasy Premier
Wow.
League. And this year, or I say last season, I should say, we tried to find ways in which we could make it more personalised to that team captain.
Yeah.
And so you had the opportunity to design your own badge or personalise your own badge for your team. And it was a really seamless experience where people went into Adobe Express, used Firefly to personalize their team badge. And I think we had something like 11 million badge image generations.
Wow.
And over 600,000 badges were created. And I'm sure we're going to smash that number when it comes to next season. So yeah, finding ways that people can express their love for the game, can express their fandom. You can, use templates to showcase how well your team has done. Sometimes you can have a great week, sometimes you can have a disastrous week. So sport is just so full of amazing stories.
Yeah.
And being able to give the clubs, the fans, the players the tools to bring their stories to life is really, really powerful.
With that level of participation, it shows that you're really tapping into accurately what the fans want, right? What the community wants, and empowering them. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
Absolutely. No, I think that this shift from being a spectator
Yes.
to actually being a participator, and even taking that a step further to actually a co-creator. We're just seeing that more and more. People do want to express them, bring their emotions to life creatively.
A lot of marketers are talking about changing from just speaking at your customers to co-creating with your customers. Adobe does that so well. What advice would you give for a CMO who's looking for help to understand how to create more participatory campaigns?
I think it starts with deeply understanding your customer behavior. Like, what do they want to do? And you can't force a behavior. I think it has to be something that's really authentic and genuine. And we know that there is a desire for people to create, and that might be a simple social post, or that brings to life how they're feeling or their emotions. But we know that like creativity continues to explode. I think there's something like 1 billion people that describe themselves as creators globally.
Amazing.
And so being able to give them the tools to help them do so in a beautiful way is just really, really powerful. So you have to deeply understand like what your customers and communities want, and then give them the opportunities to co-create. We've often we have huge numbers of collabs on our social channels. We like to put our creators at the center of our universe and give them the keys to the engine to kind of play around and have some fun.
So let's talk more about social. As viewers increasingly shift from a TV-centric world to a phone-centric world, social becomes increasingly important. How do you think about the role of social in your overall marketing ecosystem?
I mean, it's another channel to kind of communicate and engage with your customers, and an extremely powerful one. I think what we saw with one of our customers, Sky in the UK. They have their Saturday Night Live. They launched Saturday Night Live in the UK a couple of months ago, and obviously broadcast on Sky, and a lot of people watch it live or recorded. But their team spend like Sunday to Friday clipping up content from that that TV program and posting those clips on social, and they got a huge number of people who just watch the clip, who never watch the TV show, but they watch a clip and would consider themselves fans of Saturday Night Live in the UK. So I think it's a great way of connecting with customers, and it's ultimately you don't control anymore who your brand, how people think of your brand. It's determined by the conversations that are happening and how you can kind of authentically engage in those conversations.
It is a tension point for a lot of marketers, since you don't control your brand, but how much freedom are you willing to give up to both creators to create, but even how you express your brand on social might look different from how you've always expressed your brand in a more TV-centric way. How do you think about the right amount of flexibility for brand expression across channels, especially on social?
Yeah, so whilst everybody talks about how like everything is changing and transforming, I love the Sir John Hegarty quote. Principles remain, practices change.
Okay.
And I think that you still deeply need to understand who you are as a brand, what you stand for, your vision, your mission, your kind of the key principles of who you are, and then it's really about enabling your communities to bring to life, what your brand stands for in their own authentic way. So, we work in a huge way with creators and influencers and ambassadors, lots of different terms for the community we work with, and we find that you can't be prescriptive.
Right.
They're the people that deeply understand their own audiences and how you best connect with those audiences, and so the importance of a really great creative brief has never been more important, and that's where you can help explain that customer insight, but you have to allow the creators to interpret the brand or use the tools or create content that for them is right for their audiences. And that's what we really focus on. We allow our creators, we encourage our creators to be their authentic selves and are not too prescriptive in our briefs when we partner with them. But yeah, co-creation, working with creators, bringing that creator content into our performance marketing is just we're finding a really effective way to get great marketing performance.
A lot of marketers would say maybe you're going too far and giving too much control over to the creators. I agree with you. I think that's a smart approach. But what would you tell somebody who's nervous to give so much of the control to the creators?
I would say just experiment. Ultimately, we're learning as we go. What type of creators to work with. Where it makes sense to work with a macro or mega creator versus the kind of micro niche creator or an influencer. But for us, we've got some pretty clear principles for who we work with and how we work with them. Firstly, they have to be really authentic users of our products. That's something we always make sure that's the case. If you speak to, I did a panel earlier this week with Brandon Baum, who he's been using our products, Adobe's products, since he was 12, 13 years old.
Amazing.
It's at school, and so they're kind of genuine, authentic users of our products. And then you just empower them to do their best work, that work they believe will connect with their customers. And then you measure the impact of the work you're doing and find creative ways to bring that into the funnel. We started out with a tiny percentage of our performance marketing content being creator-led. Now we're up to 25, 30, 35% of our content being creator-led content, and it's driving significant business impact.
Wow. And how do you see that mix evolving in the future?
I think it's only going to grow. I think it's only going to grow. I think there's opportunities to partner more long term with creators. I think that's where we're seeing a lot of success. Is rather than just having one-off transactional relationships, it's having those deep, longer term relationships. So they start to really understand your brand and where they can take it and where they can't take it. But I think that's just a direction that's only going to continue.
Amazing. Let's talk about creativity and the future of creativity. Adobe is on the forefront of unleashing creativity and almost defining what that can look like. Where do you see creativity evolving in the future?
I think that now, with generative AI producing this abundance of content, and content like production has been a big challenge, and so with that challenge starting to be addressed, I think it's actually going to be never more important to have that originality, have that great story, that spark that's going to create that emotion, and I think originality is key to those time. If you think about timeless creations, they are all about originality, and I think that's where brands, where agencies, where creators are going to have the opportunity to really stand out, because there's going to be this abundance of content. That's where you need a great, human idea and taste and judgment. So I think it's going to be never a more exciting time for creativity and storytelling.
One thing that I love about Adobe is it lowers the bar to access of creativity. It's always done that, right? Made it easier for people to create.
Yeah, I mean, our mission is empowering everyone to create. And, that's something that we are truly looking to enable all around the world.
It's amazing. Exciting times.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to share with our audience?
No, I think it's been great. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Simon, for the time.
Thank you. That's great.